I love sports and leisure. I really remembered this episode from the first time that I watched Wings, and I think it's probably one of my favourite episodes, and there are a few reasons for that. This is the fourth episode of the second season of Wings, and there will be spoilers from now as I discuss various aspects of the episode. Usually I make notes chronologically. I haven't done that this time. I think largely because I was just so engrossed in the episode, but I will cover pretty much what happens. And as I said, there are a few reasons why I love this. And the first is that it's just very, very funny. And the second is that everybody's in a different environment. We don't spend that much time down at the airport. And the third is that we really get to know Roy a little bit better, because up until this point, Roy has very much come across as the antagonist rather than being one of the gang. But here we see him starting to come into the fold a little bit more and starts to actually feel like one of the main guys. And I rather enjoyed that part of it. It starts off with everybody going fishing. And they kind of invite Roy, but not wanting him to go because they think he's going to ruin everything. And they were right. He played a trick on them. They got very, very wet. They had a miserable time, and Roy was very happy. So they were kind of right in thinking he would ruin things. And they decide, that's it, enough is enough. We're not going to invite him anywhere else. But Faye had kind of already invited him to play Trivial Pursuit with the guys, the rest of them, one night that week. And initially, Roy says, forget it, you don't want me there, I'm not going. But then we have this really, really moving moment, and there's this, the performance is great, and there's one bit that I really loved, where Roy approaches Joe, who is polishing his aeroplane or cleaning it or whatever, and he tells Joe he doesn't like people, he doesn't really know how to be nice to people, and Joe gives him some tips, and we have a great performance throughout by David Schramm. But one of my favourite bits in the whole episode is when he does that thing where he rubs his foot on the floor and he looks all shy and adorable, and I just thought it was really sweet. And then, of course, he does eventually go to this Trivial Pursuit night, and I feel like pretty much the entire second half of the episode focuses on this game. And we have the full gang there, Joe and Brian, Lowell and Helen, Faye and Roy, and also loving Trivial Pursuit, and I love trivia games, so that part of it really appealed to me. That's not to say I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much if they were playing Snakes and Ladders or something, but that was just an added bonus for me. Roy is actually on Lowell's team, and for every question, Lowell answers Anne Margaret. And needless to say, Anne Margaret is not the answer to the questions, and Roy gets really frustrated, but to his credit, he tries. He tries to be nice to Lowell. He's finding it very difficult because Lowell is frustrating him a lot, and Roy clearly wants to win. Everybody else is there to just have fun. Roy is taking it too seriously. And I have to say, I completely understand. When I play trivia games, I feel bad if I don't do well. Don't need to win, but I don't like when I don't know the answers. So if I was on Lowell's team and somebody kept not intentionally saying the wrong answer, but kept saying the same thing over and over again, I would understand why Roy would react the way he did. And I don't know if it was obvious what was going to happen, or if it's just because I've seen it before and I remembered it. I can't really quite work it out. But Lowell answers again and again Anne Margaret, and he says he's doing this because he's played the game before, and one of the answers in it is Anne Margaret. There's some logic to that. If you've played that game before and you know one of the answers, then there is a 1 in however many questions there are chance that is going to be the answer. So, not the most helpful logic, but I understand it. And we got to the question where the answer to the question was Anne Margaret. I'm replaying the moment in my head again. And the look on Helen's face in particular when she realised what the question was really amusing. And it was so worth it. As I said, I feel like it's kind of obvious that that's what it was building up to. But again, I could remember this very well. So it might not be. But either way, I find that to be so fantastic. And it isn't great to see Roy storming off. It didn't feel very comfortable to see him being really frustrated by the situation. But all's well that ends well, because he comes back in and says that he'll see them at the barbecue, I think it was. So there is that kind of suggestion there that he's kind of crossed a line a little bit, rather than being Roy the antagonist whose sole purpose is to annoy everybody and make fun of the fact that he has 6 times the number of planes that Joe does, into Roy, a potential friend of the group. And obviously I know what happens with the character going forward because I've seen the episodes. And it's not a dramatic turning point, but it's certainly a shift in a slightly more positive direction for the character. And I really thoroughly enjoyed this episode. Great to see people in a different environment. Great to see everybody interacting with each other. And really great to get to know a bit more about Roy. Needless to say, I had a lot of fun with this. Sports and leisure. It's a really great episode.